So, what I wanted to show you today is, well, perhaps maybe your radio station is using a little bit of podcast content to fill up some of the programming throughout the day. And we do that a lot here at this station. And I've got different community members that are submitting to me, pre recorded podcast content that may or may not fit, specific hour long pieces of programming or whatever, but I've got them scheduled, and I want to show you sort of how I organize that and how we bring that stuff in and get it all programmed. So I've got a specific group made in ENCO, and I've got a podcast content or group here with several different podcasts that I bring in on a pretty much a weekly basis. And what I'll show you today is what I'm going to be loading is this, what is sort of titled as FAGF and then the date. This is For a Green Future. So it's a podcast that I've got coming in from a local community member, and I've got a new submission here. And instead of adding an entire group just for that particular podcast, what I've decided to do is for any of the podcast content that comes in, I have one group for all podcasts, and I just replace each week's episode, as they come in. And the reason why I do that is because instead of having one large group category for a particular genre of music where all the audio cuts are about 3 to 5 minutes long, my podcast content coming in, as you can see, is usually 60 minutes long, 30 minutes long. Some are 2 hours and a half, right? So it's going to take up lots and lots of space if I maintain a library full of these really long audio files. So what I wanted to do is be able to replace them on a weekly basis as they come in and then schedule them for the upcoming week. So when something new comes in, I collect them on a flash drive or an external hard drive. I plug that in, and then I can navigate to that spot. So here's my upcoming December 21st episode, and I'm just going to drag that in to the podcast group in ENCO. And just like always, when I'm dragging and dropping content of this nature, this dialog box shows up. I want to use the ID3 tag if available, which means sort of like the identifying metadata that comes with the file. I want to send to the audio convert program that we've got running within ENCO to convert to the appropriate file format. I still want to make sure that this is going to live in the podcast group, but then instead of hitting next available or anything like that, what I'm going to do is make sure I click over right here, and then I'm going to look over at what the existing For a Green Future audio cut, what that cut number is. And I'm going to add that right here. So 40,005. And when I do this, I'm going to hit the starting cut, and it's going to take this, because I'm only bringing in one thing. So it's going to take this exact cut number and replace what exists there with the new thing that I'm bringing in. I could check this box that says warn if exists, and it would give me an extra dialog box that says, hey, you make sure you want to do this. But I've gotten to the point where I know exactly what I'm doing, so I don't need that part. I just want to make sure that I overwrite the exact number that is already being scheduled in some of my hours and clocks and things like that. So I've got this new content coming in from here, from an external source. It's going to have the ID3 tag brought in. It's going to be sent to the audio conversion tool to convert it to the desired format for ENCO. It's going to this particular group, and it's going to have this exact number. So I go ahead and hit starting cut ID, and depending how long that audio file is, 60 minutes, it might take around 30 to 60 seconds for it to actually make the transfer. And then you're going to see the dialog box pop up that says it's being sent to audio conversion now, right? See, and now there it happened. 4,000 or 40,005. the cut number, has been replaced with the new date, and it's going through the conversion process here. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Now, if we wanted to take this one step further, you can see a little bit of how I'm addressing the fact that, well, luckily, the For a Green Future podcast is pretty much 1 hour long. But if I look under Ensemble, which is our music scheduler, and I look at the clocks for a Green Future, you can see that, well, the way our station likes to operate is that we have a piece of underwriting that is sponsorship. We're a non-commercial station, so we have a local business that is sponsoring the programming for the hour and all that kind of stuff. So I've got that happening right at the top of the hour, and then I've got that very specific cut, 40,005, being played. And because of the time of day, the final thing here is a smart chain that's going to lead us into the next day's playlist. Because the way that I've decided to schedule things at this station is to have the podcast content take the last hour of every day, so the 11 p.m. hour. So 11 to midnight every night is a podcast, different one every week. So this one happens to happen on this day. And so we need to make sure that once it's over, it's going to chain into the following day's playlist so that we can continue moving on an automated schedule. So there you go. That's how you make sure that your incoming podcast content can be brought in an efficient way. It does mean that every week when I get new content, I will have to replace this particular cut number. Otherwise, if I do nothing, then a week later, I'm going to have the same content play again. So that's up to you and the discretion of the person providing the content to you, perhaps, and how that all works. But I've found that this is a relatively good system to use if I don't want to perhaps bog down the system and my ENCO hard drive space and all that with lots and lots of hour-long content. It's just to replace one after the other weekly as they come in.